sounds like you're thinking about making some changes at this point.
Well, what we've discussed so far makes me believe that change is going to have to take place somewhere along the line, but I don't know exactly where that's leading me right now.
Okay. Well, you mentioned earlier that you had quit smoking. I'm wondering if you can tell me about how you did that.
Well, I started smoking in college through my early years of marriage, went into the service. Cigarettes were cheap. We smoked there. And then when I came out of the service, I had 2 children at that point in time, and felt, as society was also changing at that point, that I should quit, and my wife as well. And eventually I quit cold turkey. It took several tries. The first time you do it, and then you're mooching cigarettes from other people, and then you're back at it again. So it took 3 tries of stopping completely, and my wife was able to stop even before I did. So it took about 2 years.
Okay, so it took 2 years and it took a couple of different tries.
Yes.
I'm wondering, while you were trying the different times, if you did anything differently with regard to your smoking.
Well, I think the last time, really, I took greater steps. I was commuting at that point and stayed out of train cars where smoking was going on, and of course they eventually eliminated that. Avoiding places where a lot of heavy smoking was going on, and leaving an office where people were smoking so that I would not be tempted to join them, and that kind of thing. And after a period of time, then the urge ended. But that's what I did at that point.
Okay, so you mainly avoided places where there were smoking. So
I would say yes, and not carrying cigarettes, of course, and stuff like that. But yeah, avoiding places where there was a lot of smoking.
Okay, so avoiding them and then not buying anymore.
And not buying anymore, and when I had to work at a desk, if the urge came, I would get up and walk around or go see someone else that was there and talk, or that kind of thing.
Okay, so you also then avoided, did other activities instead of smoking, taking a walk or doing something else. Okay. So in talking about those changes, I'm thinking about now the drinking. Do you think now you're at a point where you might want to make some changes with your drinking?
Well, I think I certainly could consider cutting back some, and part of that being more active with other people in non-drinking situations. Obviously, you're not going to avoid weddings and things like that, but I think I could cut back considerably by doing that. Not considerably, a little anyway.
Okay, so with drinking versus smoking, you're thinking that maybe cutting back versus going cold turkey is...
Oh yes, no, that was not really a particularly pleasant option that I wanted to consider.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify where you are at right now. So cutting back seems like something you're ready to think about now.
Yeah, particularly because of the medical issues.
Okay, right, because we had talked about the health risks. So in thinking about cutting back your drinking, do you have any ideas about how or where you might do that?
Well, we always have coffee and stuff at poker night, and after a beer or maybe 2, switching to coffee or something like that. Having water nearby. In many ways, it's like the smoking. It's having something to do with your hands, and perhaps some alternative liquids would make a difference there. I still would probably have a couple of beers, though.
Okay, right. We're talking about cutting back. We're not talking about going cold turkey. So what you've suggested, things that might work for you, are having some water at the table with you, so maybe to alternate with the beers, and then maybe switching towards the end of the night. It sounds like switching to coffee a little earlier than maybe you would have.
Yes.
Okay, so sounds like that's a strategy to try for poker night. I know we had also talked about your drinking during the week. Any thoughts about what you could do for that?
Smaller glasses, maybe.
Okay. Smaller glasses. I mean, we had talked about the size of standard drinks
quantities,
and quantities.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I think cutting down on quantity using smaller glasses. I'd try it. I don't know how that'll work, but.
Okay. Well, these are just ideas right now.
That's a possibility, I guess.
Okay. So those are, I think, are 2 really specific plans. Something I wanted to show you was this drinking agreement, which is just...
Now, let me see.
Sure, take a look. And it's really, we just kind of put what you agreed to here, which would be, kind of cutting back on poker nights, having the water, going to coffee.
I don't much like this form at all. I don't like this.
So you don't like it. I'm reading that it's more than just a little bit of dislike.
Well, I find it's kind of infantilizing. And certainly in my life, I have always felt, and still do, that if I want to quit completely, I could do so. But I don't want to. It's part of my socialization and all of that. But I think I have control over it, and that I'm not particularly dependent.
Okay, so you feel that putting this down on a form is treating you like a child, where you can have control over this and you can make your decisions, and this you feel is kind of taking that away.
Yes, I agree. I feel that way.
Okay, so this sounds like this is not good for you, but let's go back then and review what we talked about in terms of what you thought would be comfortable for cutting back, which was on poker night, having some water at the table with you, switching to coffee earlier. Does that still seem? And
yes.
For drinking when you're at home at night, maybe switching to smaller glasses to cut back on the quantity.
Yes, and I could do that at my daughter's when I have dinner there, that kind of thing, yes.
Okay, so those still seem like...
Those seem usable.
They seem realistic to you.
Yes, and I would still have the social contact that I want in that situation.
Okay, great. So do you think you're ready now to go and try these?
Yeah, sure. I think I can probably do that without too much difficulty. I'll try.
Okay. How about coming back in a week? Would you be willing to come back in a week and checking in and seeing how that went?
Sure. Why not? Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Okay, great. You can make an appointment on the way out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Nice to see you again.
Oh, it's good to be back.
I'm wondering how it went last week.
Not very well. I found that I was not able to follow the program, even as limited as it was. I just was not successful, and that's very upsetting to me that I didn't succeed. I usually succeed in things I try.
So you're upset, and from what I'm hearing you say, not succeeding means that you're looking at this as a failure.
Very, very much so.
Okay. Well, a way I can definitely understand how you're feeling that, but a way I'd like to suggest of looking at this also is to look at it as a learning experience. Not succeeding right at your first time is very common. What you told me last week when we talked about when you quit smoking, that it took you 3 times. 3 times is, I think, a fairly typical, even maybe a low amount when you were trying a new habit. So just want to put that out there as another way to look at that. I see you still...
It helps, yes. It helps some, but as I said, I wish I had not failed. I mean, I need to do something about that. I'm concerned now that I have less ability to have control over this than I thought I would have. And so I think we ought to see if we can figure out something else.
I think that makes sense. I think you're disappointed, and I can understand that, but in looking at it as a learning experience, let's take a look at what happened and see, to your point, if there is a way. Maybe there's something else. So tell me a little bit about what happened last week.
Well, the poker night, which was actually very shortly after we met the last time, and I just got into the game and into the socializing and simply forgot completely that I was going to try to do something different until the coffee was served at the end. And I did not do anything at all to help myself at that point. And so that, to me, was a failure in that regard. I was thinking about it coming over here, and one thing that occurred to me that might help, if I would get a different kind of beer to drink, something that was heavier, something that I could not consume in quantity, like a Guinness or an ale or something like that I don't normally have and that I don't usually like, because I would be forced to sip that over a longer period of time.
Okay, so trying something different versus just cutting back.
And what I really hadn't thought of until now is
Mm-hmm.
is buying maybe a 6-pack of that particular brew and giving that to everybody else, whether they like it or not, and just say we're going to try something different. And maybe that will, it certainly would help me, I think, to cut back, and it would make me aware, because it was something different, that I needed to take care of myself differently.
Okay, so bringing Guinness next time would help you drink less.
Yes.
You would be able, if you bring it for everybody, everyone else would be drinking it. It makes me want to ask if you discussed this at all, if you mentioned anything about this to your friends at all.
No, I haven't to people that are close to me. My daughter knows, but other than that, I have not. Something interesting did happen. I've been more active in my church in this last week. There are people that I like, and I joined a committee with them, and I'm kind of finding that there are other people out there like me that either are cutting back or that aren't drinking at all because of age or medical issues. I find that a less judgmental group, perhaps. I'm more comfortable with, because I don't know these people as closely, perhaps, as my friends. But now I'm still feeling uncomfortable and shy in discussing it with my poker buddies, particularly.
Okay, so I'm hearing a few things. First, you did something that did go well this week,
Yes, that went well.
in that you joined a committee at church, a new committee at church, and you were able to talk about this with people. So that sounds like a positive step to me. But going back to what you said about your friends, it sounds like you're maybe not ready to talk about this with your friends that you play poker with, the people you've known longer.
I feel like that now. After talking with other people and so forth, it looks like something that is perhaps something that's necessary to do to be successful, rather than keeping it to myself that I'm doing this. It's what occurs to me now. It's like dieting. You don't always want to tell people you're on a diet because you may not be successful at it. And I'm sort of feeling that same way here.
Right. So I can understand that you're hesitant and kind of trying to figure out whether you want to tell them. It sounds like you do, but you're a little nervous about what they might say. So
Yes.
I'm wondering what you think they might say.
Well, I think I might be teased, particularly after all these years. That's more what I'm, and I don't take teasing very well, and so that's what I'm sort of envisioning, that they would find it amusing, and so that's why I perhaps am shy about it.
So you're feeling shy because you think they might tease you,
Mm-hmm.
and that might make you defensive or
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
not defensive.
Okay.
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
And maybe I'm giving them less credit than they're due. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm thinking about that aspect of it.
Okay, so one of the things you're thinking about still is at some point telling your friends.
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
next time, maybe you'll try the Guinness first or see
Yes,
how that
something
goes.
like that. Yes.
Okay. So we talked about the new activity you did at church. We talked about poker night. What about the drinking at home in the evening?
Well, I'm one of these people that I drink red wine,
Mm-hmm.
but I like it very cold.
Okay.
And most people don't drink it that way. But I thought maybe I could go back to the bigger glass and perhaps fill it full of ice, and then pour the wine over that, and that would give me the wine somewhat diluted and almost the same amount of liquid as the ice melts. And that is something I could try and see if that satisfies what it provides me to have a couple of drinks in the evening. Because certainly the smaller glass doesn't work, because then you drink a little bit more of the smaller glass, so that really wasn't a very good idea.
Well, it was what we found out that it didn't work for you, so it was good in that we know that we need to try something else. So, and you've had another suggestion, so what I'm hearing is you're still interested in going forward and working on looking at ways to
Yes,
cut back.
yes.
And that 2 ways to maybe try for this coming week are trying the Guinness or the ale at poker night and trying to have, trying the red wine and ice and see if the volume with, as the ice melts, kind of helps with cutting back at home.
Certainly would dilute it some too.
Okay, so it sounds like that's a plan. Can we,
Okay.
you'll come back next week and we can see how, check in then?
Yeah, sure. My daughter had some interest in speaking to you as well. She certainly talked with Dr. Clark from time to time, and she's expressed an interest in speaking to you as well.
Okay, what I think might work better is maybe if she comes with you next time and we can all talk together. Would that be okay for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Terrific. I look forward to meeting her.